Absolutely. I just want to say we might as well get started. It's two
All
o'clock.
right.
That's what we told people, right? So, and they're here
Yeah.
on time. So we're going to respect their time. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Virginia McCotter Jacobs, the Executive Director and CEO of the National School Boards Association. Delighted to be here with Jill Buck, who is partnering with us, or we're partnering with her with the Go Green Initiative. We're really excited about this relationship and the opportunities for our school districts across the country. So today is an opportunity for you to hear from Jill about some more specifics of this opportunity. And we really encourage you to use this, leverage this time and opportunity to get your applications in. And we look forward to working with you over the next several years to make sure that air quality in your schools are what they should be. Also, don't forget that some of these have policy implications. So we want school districts to be developing policies as well. We'd like to have those done by August if possible so that we can review them by September. And again, we look forward to working with you. I'm going to turn it over to Jill so that she has the maximum amount of time to answer your questions and to deliver information. Jill,
Thank you so much, Virginia. And it's
you're
such a
welcome.
pleasure to be with you all today. I want to just start by saying that this is only one of several programs that we're going to be rolling out together over the next 5 years. And this grant that I'm about to talk about is the result of an EPA grant that we received. And we're going to be able to share with you some really great opportunities throughout the next 5 years. This is just the first. So just keep that in mind as we talk about this grant today. We do have a lot more coming. This is just the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides with you all so that we can get started. And let's see here. There we go. And if you have any questions, you can just raise your hand or put a question in the Q&A section, and we will be sure to get to that as soon as we can. Let me see. Yes, the slides will be available afterwards. Good question. All right. So let's talk about this grant and the technical assistance that we're going to be able to provide to school districts to do a couple of things. The main thing we're going to be working on is improving indoor air quality in school districts throughout the country. But the grant program that we received funding from also asked us to take a look at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. All right, let me advance my slides. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to go over the EPA grant, talk about it a little bit, where these funds come from. We'll be talking about the grants and the technical assistance that the winners of this grant opportunity will be offered. We'll talk about some of the application highlights, and then, most exciting, if you win, what the timeline was going to look like for engagement. So let's jump right in. First of all, I want to say that the EPA grant that we were awarded is a historic investment in indoor air quality in schools. For about 30 years, the EPA has been doing tremendous work, and they've created something that you might have heard of before. It's the Tools for Schools program, which is just a treasure chest of great resources that schools can use to improve indoor air quality in each of their campuses. But beyond the Tools for Schools program, there's been minimal investments at the federal level in really helping schools to enact those tools that the EPA has put together. And so last year, a funding opportunity was created by Congress. I put a link in the slides, which will be available after this webinar, to the notice of funding opportunity. And you'll see in that document a number of things. The first being what precipitated this grant program, where the money came from, and what was intended to be accomplished with this grant funding. I will tell you, this is exciting news. The National School Boards Association and the Go Green Initiative partnered together on this, and we were one of only 5 organizations nationwide who received this grant, and only one of 2 nationwide that received the full grant amount. Only the American Lung Association received the full grant amount like we did. And so we're really excited to put this grant into action. The grant was earmarked for low income and tribal communities. And we're going to talk about why that is in just a moment. And the objectives of the grant, as I mentioned, were twofold. first and foremost to increase the number of school districts that have indoor air quality management plans and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I will say, behind payroll, a lot of times in school districts, the second largest expenditure is energy. Those utility bills can be quite a substantial piece of any budget for a school district. And so sometimes there's trepidation about the energy impact of improving indoor air quality. And we want to make sure we keep an eye on that. And so we're going to talk about how we can look at your energy consumption and in doing so, also take a look at your greenhouse gas emissions inventory. So let's talk about the why. Why is indoor air quality so important, especially in schools? And the trite answer is twofold. First of all, children are not just little adults. And secondly, schools are not just little offices. What I mean by that is, children's bodies take in toxins differently. When they breathe more deeply. When they function in an environment, their bodies don't have the mature defense systems that an adult body has, and so they are much more susceptible, much more vulnerable to toxins that may be introduced to their bodies from the air, from food and water as well. So we're looking at indoor air quality as an opportunity to protect children's health, both in the short term and in the long term. We're also going to be talking in just a moment about the impact that indoor air quality can have on children's ability to learn. And we're going to talk about the cognitive impacts. But the second thing we know is true, especially after COVID, is that schools are not just little offices. Generally speaking, schools are much more densely populated than office buildings are. So when you talk about a typical office building and the number of people per square foot, it's a lot less than the number of people that are packed into that same square footage for a school. And so that has some really important indoor air quality implications, not just when we're talking about spreading infectious diseases like COVID or the flu or what have you, but also in terms of things like CO2 levels. What we exhale, it is not something that we want to see, rise. CO2 levels can cause a big problem in terms of indoor air quality. So let's talk about those things for just a moment. So we probably are all very familiar with the respiratory effects of indoor air quality. We know that a lot of children in our country have asthma. We know that a lot of children have allergies, and these things can keep them out of school. And we want to make sure that we're keeping children in school. We've learned the importance of that more than ever before. And good indoor air quality can really make a big difference. But there are some other health implications to poor indoor air quality that we need to take a look at. One is cancer. There are actually indoor air pollutants that are tied to cancer, that are tied to neurodegenerative diseases. These oftentimes are associated with things like heavy metals that may be present in indoor air quality. But there are also psychological effects of certain indoor pollutants and cardiac effects. High lead content in the air can elevate blood pressure, can cause tachycardia, high heart rates, and a number of other difficulties. And gastrointestinal effects can also be quite prevalent. And this is something that we think about a lot when we talk about the flu season. We know that children can get gastrointestinal diseases from indoor air quality and that those germs can be spread. But in addition to the health implications of indoor air quality, it's really important to remember that this can actually impact a child's ability to learn. Cognitive impact is one of the things that a lot of educators, even if you have a master's in education or a doctorate in education, you may never have gotten a class on the way that indoor air quality affects learning. And there's a lot of studies on this, and this is actually something that we'll cover in some later trainings. Some of the research behind children's ability to learn in poor versus good indoor air quality. So besides academic performance, we also know that just alertness and the ability to pay attention is impacted by indoor air quality. This is again going back to CO2, but that's not the only substance that we need to pay attention to. But CO2 levels can really impact children's ability to even stay awake, let alone concentrate. We know that some indoor air quality pollutants are connected to attention disorders. And so, again, in some subsequent trainings, we'll go through the science behind this, but I want to highlight some of these. Now, we know very well, and we've known for decades, that asthma is something that keeps children out of school. And so, if we can lower the risk that children are going to have an asthma attack, that is something that can impact them their whole entire life. Children who aren't reading at grade level by third grade have higher instances of dropping out of high school. And that is often predicated by how many days they're in class or how many days they miss class in pre-K through third grade. And so this is why. A very quick overview of why we care about indoor air quality in schools. It really impacts little bodies in a significant way. Now, I will stipulate that this is also impacting the adult bodies in these classrooms and in our offices and in our shared spaces in schools. So it's not just a matter of children's health and children's ability to perform, it's also a matter of adults' ability to perform and to function well in the environment. So let's jump into this grant and the reason that you're all here today. In addition to the funding, there's also technical assistance that will be offered to the school districts that are chosen for this first year. This is the first of 4 years that we're going to be offering these grants. So I just want to say that at the outset. So let's dive in. First of all, and this is because of the funding source and what the funding was intended for, in order to be eligible to apply for the grant or to receive the grant, your school district must serve a student population of 50% or more who are on free and reduced price lunch, or 50% or more who reside in a tribal community. And in a moment, I'll show you on the grant application itself where you'll fill in that information. The reason for this is because EPA has known for over a generation that children in low income and tribal communities have a much higher rate of environmental pollutants that they are exposed to, and therefore higher instances of health related and cognitive impairment related problems associated with poor indoor air quality at school. And so that is why this funding was earmarked, especially for districts that serve those populations. The scope of this grant is that we are going to be able to offer this program for 10 school districts per year. And ideally, if we have enough applicants, the idea is to choose one school district per EPA region each year. So that means that this year we'll choose 10 school districts, one from each EPA region. So now you can see the map, you know who your competition is. And we will offer this grant program to 10 more schools the year after that, and then 2 more years after that with this grant cycle. So this is how we intend to spread this opportunity throughout the country. So let's talk about some of the benefits. The Go Green Initiative will be hiring staff that will give both in-person and online training to this cohort of 10 school districts. We're going to be helping you walk through every step of the way, of every step that needs to happen in order for you to create not just an indoor air quality and greenhouse gas emission reduction plan, but to enact those plans and to measure the impact of those plans. So the funding is set up to be dispersed as the school districts that are chosen for this program accomplish certain milestones. Ideally, this is the order they'll go in. First of all, we'll have you enact school board policy. One of the things that NSBA is working with its partners on, and Virginia mentioned this earlier in the introduction, is that We are working with all of the state school board associations and asking them to take a look at, if they don't already have existing policy language that local school boards can use for indoor air quality management, to create that language. Each state has a little bit different legislation on the books. Not every state has legislation requiring schools to do anything about indoor air quality, but a lot of states do. And so we want to make sure that your local school district policy language matches the ed code and your state legislation. And so we're working on getting a database of language for all 50 states that your local school board can enact. The reason that we're doing this is so that this becomes institutionalized in your school district, that it's not just a flash in the pan program, but rather becomes part of the way that your school district operates. Secondly, we're going to ask the winning organizations to complete baseline indoor air quality and greenhouse gas emission assessments. We'll be using EPA's Tools for Schools checklists for the baseline indoor air quality assessments. And for the greenhouse gas assessments, we're simply going to help you put together an Energy Star portfolio manager account for each of the schools in your district. We'll help you upload energy usage data into Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And one of the many, many reports that you can run from Energy Star Port Manager, Energy Star Portfolio Manager, say that 10 times fast, is a greenhouse gas emissions report. But there's a lot of other great information that your district will benefit from having that Energy Star Portfolio Manager account for each of your schools. If you don't already. If you do already, you're many steps ahead. We're going to ask that you send at least 4 members of your school district central office team through some online training. It won't be too onerous, but it will help you with every step of this program. We're going to ask you to complete a plan to manage your indoor air quality. And that will be based on what you find when you and some of our Go Green Initiative staff do the baseline assessments. And then, drum roll please, we're going to ask you to actually enact those plans and to put them into practice. And then at the end, to measure the so what of it all. What did you accomplish? What happened in your school district as a result of this plan? And because you would be cohort number 1, you get the chance to earn $5,000 for doing those annual reports on the so what of your indoor air quality management plan 3 different times. And you'll see why this is important in just a moment, because the school districts that come in subsequent years, will not have as many years to do that reporting. So we're going to go through the application highlights. I'm going through this kind of quickly because I want to make sure we have plenty of time for question and answers. But this is a QR code to the application. As I mentioned earlier, the slides will be made available to everybody who registered for the webinar. We are recording the webinar. It'll be up on our YouTube page, and we'll be sharing that widely. And in the description of the YouTube, we'll make sure we put a link to the slides as well. All right, let's dive in. So the eligibility section of the application is very important. We want to make sure that we understand that you have a district that either serves a student population of 50% or more students that are eligible for free and reduced price lunch, or a student population of 50% or more who are part of a tribal community. And so this is the minimum eligibility for this grant. Again, because of where the grant dollars came from. This is what Congress allocated. Next, we're going to ask your school district, before we get started, to sign a memorandum of understanding stating that you will complete these steps that are associated with the funding. The funding comes with each of these milestones. And so we will ask you to say, yes, we'll sign an MOU that we will do each step of the program. Finally, you'll get a chance to tell us what opportunities or impact receiving this grant would have for your school district. And that's where you'll get to fill that out here. We'll ask for your superintendent's contact information, and we'll ask your superintendent to sign the application. It's very important that we are sure that your superintendent knows that you are applying for this grant. The application is due on May 15th. Very important, midnight. That is when we will close the applications, and then we will start the judging the very next day. And we expect to take no more than a month to judge the applications and to get word out to everyone about who was selected to be in cohort number 1. If you win, this is what the timeline looks like. And P.S., I'm seeing questions come up. We'll get to those in just a few moments. So if you win, the first thing that's going to happen is over the summer this year in 2025, we're going to do some onboarding. We'll have some preliminary meetings with senior school district staff who will be involved with the execution of this program, and we'll get everyone ready and set to get started at back to school. At back to school time, September through December, Q4 of this year, we're going to ask that your school board adopts a policy. Again, we're going to have some policy language for you to take a look at. We're going to ask your at least 4 members of your school district office. We have some ideas about who that should be, go through training. We're going to help you. GGI, Go Green Initiative staff will help you begin the baseline assessments. And we'll also get you some portable indoor air quality pollution monitors. These are not permanent. They're not to be like the fixed kind that will go in just one classroom. They're portable that you can move around and take to different areas and use. Then starting in 2026, that first quarter, January through March, we're going to ask that your stakeholders, those senior stakeholders, finish their training, complete that by the end of March, and that your baseline assessments of indoor air quality and greenhouse gas emissions are completed as well. Then April through August, that's when we're going to take all that data. And again, you're going to get assistance with this, but that's when we're going to put all of this information together in a plan, an indoor air quality management plan, a greenhouse gas emissions reduction plan. And then in September of 2026, we're going to ask you to enact that plan district-wide. And then you get that whole school year to enact it, to train everybody up, to educate the community, to talk about what the purpose of all of this is. And then at the end of that school year, June 1, we're going to ask you to report. We'll give you the template. It's not going to be very onerous at all. And then another $5,000 will come your way. And each June, 2028 and 2029, we'll ask cohort 1 to do this same reporting. So that's what the timeline is going to look like. Couple quick things before we open it up for Q&A. I gave you a couple of QR codes here. The first one is to earn a certificate of completion for today's webinar. And you might be thinking, why would I want to do that? Well, you're the first to know. We are retooling the Magna Awards program for the National School Boards Association. We've been working really hard on this. And the Magna Awards are going to be dedicated to indoor air quality and greenhouse gas emissions. And one of the ways that you can earn points towards the new Magna Awards is by going through webinars and trainings, and you'll get a chance to upload these certificates to your Magna Award application if you decide to go for that. Another thing that I'll encourage you to consider is to sign up for the Go Green Initiative newsletter. There's a QR code there for that. As I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, this is just the first of many opportunities that we're going to be rolling out to school districts as a result of this EPA grant. And if you want to stay up to date with all that we're doing, of course, you can follow us on social media, but you'll never miss a thing if you sign up for our newsletter. Real quick, one more plug. We are doing another webinar on Earth Day next month. We're going to be talking about how to earn a 2026 NSBA Magna Award. As I mentioned, it's been retooled. Instead of the previous application where you can turn in information about an innovative program that your school district has achieved, it's going to be a points-based award program where you can earn points for different elements of working on indoor air quality in your school district. And if you want more information on how to earn one of those magnet awards, you can sign up for the for next month's webinar with this QR code. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to start answering some questions. If you have a question and you want to put your hand up, I'm going to kind of go through these one by one. The question was, will the slides be available? Yes, they will. If you registered, I will send you an email with a link to the slides. Here's another question from David. Our district free and reduced price percentage is approximately 35%, but we are in the first year of a CEP, community eligibility provision. Do we qualify with this conditional designation? David, I'm going to say yes. Go ahead and apply. Again, there is going to be quite a bit of competition, but yes, I think that would meet the eligibility requirements. Let's see, Terry, will we be able to access the PPT? Yes. After the meeting, the slides will be available. And somebody asked, we are traveling. Can we have access to a recording of this? Can you send a link? Yes, I will. That recording will be up later today. Let's see. What else? Is there a template or required sections for an indoor air quality management plan? Yes, there are. We're going to be following the EPA Tools for Schools, their outline for the ideal, perfect indoor air quality management plan. And so some of the training that we're going to be providing, and I should have mentioned this. Let me back up for just a second. So yes, the cohort that of 10 school districts that get chosen for this grant award are going to get trained. Everybody's going to get a chance to get that training because we're going to be creating online training courses that will be exactly the same as what the school districts who are chosen for this program are getting. It'll be free, available to anyone. And we're also going to be doing webinars just like this every month where we'll be training on this. So yes, we will be sharing that information with you all so that you have what is considered the ideal indoor air quality management plan. So Terry B asks, so every school in the division has to participate. That is the concept. What we're trying to do is to create equity within your school district. Now, if you have a school district like LA Unified, or New York, or one of these very, very large, hundreds of schools in the school district, we can work on a reasonable plan. It's very difficult to roll out a program in that many schools. So if you are a very large school district, we will work with you on that. But if you are a small school district or medium-sized school district, we are going to encourage you to roll this out district-wide. But again, everything will be, something that we can discuss and work on together in collaboration. Jessica asked, is the $10,000 for the baseline assessments extra duty pay to complete assessments, or is it for a vendor? Good question, Jessica. And I should have mentioned this to begin with. When you get the funding for completing different elements of, this program, you can use it for whatever you want to. You can use it to recoup some of the staff time that may have been involved in doing some of this work. You can use it for indoor air quality monitors. You can use it for whatever your school district decides to in order to advance your indoor air quality management plans. It's not designated for any vendor on our side. If you choose to bring on a vendor to help you with things, then you can pay them with this, but otherwise it is not restricted. So Steve J asked, what's the next step? Steve J, apply. Get on there, apply today, or at least by May 15th. And the next step is to get that application in. And then the NSBA Awards Committee and a committee of folks from the Go Green Initiative will be taking a look at all the applications after the May 15th deadline. Julie H asked, do you have to do all sites at the district? How many schools, classrooms will you need to test? Okay. There's a big difference between what you're going to test and what you're going to implement. So one of the things that you're going to find when we do the baseline assessments is that there are checklists for different areas within each school. So, for instance, there's a checklist for classrooms, there's a checklist for cafeterias, there's a checklist for the custodian area. There are lots of different checklists. And so we will divide and conquer, break up those checklists so that we can complete the baseline assessments. Oftentimes, we'll find that if you do a walkthrough, and we'll help you with the walkthrough, that you don't need to test the indoor air quality with a monitor of every classroom. You can get some information from representative areas throughout the school. And again, we will show you how. And for those of you who win the grant, you're going to have some of my staff on the ground helping you with this. For everybody else, we're going to be sending you online training so that you can do this yourself if you so choose. And we hope you will. One of the things that I wanted to mention is that, I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar that for the last probably 30 years or so, EPA has been working on this. They've had this Tools for Schools program for schools to use. Estimates show that probably only about half of US schools are actually doing something with those or on their own without Tools for Schools managing their indoor air quality. So that means about half of the schools in the United States are not managing their indoor air quality. So there's a huge amount of opportunity. And one of the goals that we have for this grant is to get as many school districts in America creating indoor air quality management plans and enacting them. So even if you're not chosen for this cohort of 10 school districts, we're going to equip you with the training and the resources you need to do it yourself. All right, next question is from Sarah. How would this work for states that have free lunch right now? So our free and reduced price lunch number may not be completely accurate as our lunch is 100% free for the time being. Good question, Sarah. So there are still, eligibilities because school districts can get federal funding still for school lunch programs for free and reduced price lunch. And that's what we're looking at. So you want to talk to your child nutrition services director or your school nutrition director about those numbers. If you cannot get those, then there's another way that you can take a look at this. If you look on the Census Bureau information about your city, you can get poverty rates. Especially childhood poverty rates for your community. And you may find if there's no way that you can get the free and reduced price lunch count, then you could substitute the childhood poverty rate according to the U.S. Census Bureau for your community, the community in which your school district resides. If you get confused, reach out to me. Jill Buck, JILLBUCK, at gogreeninitiative.org, and we'll work it out. But that's what I would suggest. Good question. Okay, we've got another question. The funds received at each milestones, what can they be used for? Whatever you want. That's the answer. Now, hopefully that's not for something completely unrelated to indoor air quality. Hopefully it's something related to improving indoor air quality in your school district, but the funds are unrestricted. So if you decide that you want to throw a, pizza party for the teachers who, do a great job in their classrooms of following the Tools for Schools guidelines about how to manage their classrooms, indoor air quality management, you can do that. If you decide you want to get some monitors for certain classrooms in certain schools that are problematic, you can do that. So these funds are unrestricted, okay? All right. Joy asks, with all the federal cuts, are you already guaranteed this grant? So far, so good, Joy. I've been in regular contact with our project officers, and there's no indication at this point that our funding is in jeopardy. And so here's something that I'll say. We're all in this together. We do a great job as a collective with this grant and with all of the opportunities that we're going to be rolling out. That's just going to, I feel like, make the case that, we should continue to get funding. But at this point, we're in good shape. Tiffany asks, can you elaborate on the Energy Star portfolio portal? Yes. And Tiffany, fair warning, you asked me a question that I could go on all day about, but I won't. I'll try and be pithy. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a fantastic tool through the EPA. It's been around for decades, and they just keep making it better and better. Basically, what it is you create an account for a singular school in your school district. And so you'd have accounts for each of the schools in your school district. Each of those accounts will, when you set it up, it'll show, you'll fill in things like the year that it was constructed, the square footage, how many buildings, how is it heated, is it cooled, some basic information. And then once you set up the account, you can start to input energy usage information. You can put in electricity, you can put in natural gas, and that can either happen manually by putting in, utility data from utility bills. Or there's a lot of utilities throughout the country who now have portals where if you sign up with them to use their portal, you can automatically pull that data from their portal, from your utilities portal, right into your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. And that's something that if you're chosen for this grant application, my team will help you do. Once you start pulling in that data, and you could pull it in for a few years if you wanted to, if you wanted to get, 2, 3 years of back data information, that's going to give you some really important information besides your greenhouse gas emissions data, which you can run a report on that. But it's also going to allow you to look at the energy usage per square foot of all of your school buildings. And one of the things that's been so cool, we've done this before, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit, is that sometimes school districts have schools that are lots of different ages. Some schools that were built in 1923 and others that were built in 2010. And the kind of the knee-jerk reaction is that, well, I bet our newer schools are more energy efficient than our older schools. And that is surprisingly not always the case. And by having an Energy Star Portfolio Manager account for all of the schools in your district, you can run some reports called EUIs, energy use intensity, that basically, no matter how big or small the campus is, you can get a measurement of how much energy they're using per square foot. And sometimes when you graph that out, you can be surprised that maybe a brand new elementary is using way more energy per square foot than maybe an old high school building. And that allows you to dig in, ask some questions. Why is that happening? What is happening on these campuses that are most energy intensive? And look at some opportunities for energy efficiency that may not have been so glaringly obvious until you started looking at your campuses side by side this way. So lots more on that. I mean, I'm kind of a geek when it comes to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, but that's a snapshot and there's much more to come. All right, next question. Okay, it says, apologies if I missed this. If a district has one or two of the components already, such as sensors, but wants to apply because of needing other items, should a district apply? Could the funding for sensors be allocated to one of the other required items? Yes. So there's no, yes, that absolutely could be done. So good question. You're not exempt from applying if you've already done some work on indoor air quality. You're still welcome to apply because I'm guaranteeing you that there are very few, if any, school districts in the US that have reached nirvana when it comes to indoor air quality management. And until we all reach nirvana, there's plenty of room to improve. So go ahead and apply. All right, Terry B says, who can we reach out to regarding some particulars about our division? We don't want to waste anyone's time. We have some schools that are directly impacted by coal piers. All are not affected equally. Terry B, hit me. Jill Buck at gogreeninitiative.org. That's JILLBUCK at gogreeninitiative.org. Send me the information. We'll talk. All right. Natalie asks, how detailed should we get for the following question? And is there a character limit? Question 7, what opportunities impact would receiving this grant and technical assistance provide to your school or community? I'm not saying you need to make us cry, Natalie, but this is where you get to personalize and you get to show who you are and why this is important. As far as a character limit, I'm not aware that there's one, but if you send me an email asking me that, I'll verify it and let you know. But this is where you get to help the judges get a sense of why your district would benefit acutely from this program. Okay, so it doesn't have to be sad, but make it unique. Okay, it's your chance to stand out. Joy says, thank you so much. Okay, and let's see, Jeffrey. So, is there any equipment that this grant will fund? If so, what are some examples? Jeffrey, I love that question. Thank you for asking it. So, over the course of time, again, as you achieve certain milestones and you receive this funding, you can use it for anything you like. So, if you get $10,000 for completing your baseline assessment and you want to put that into indoor air quality monitors or air purifiers, have at it. The money is yours to use as you see fit. Now, if you need big money, and most districts do, let's be honest, if you need significant investments in HVAC equipment or MERV 13 filters or whatever, consumables, things like that that you need, there are other pots of money that we can try and help you achieve. And so, again, this is an iterative process. This program won't be the panacea solution to all your problems, but we have connections with other grant sources that can help you with bigger dollar items. All right, I hope that answers your question. I believe those are okay. I have one more question. Let's see here. Yes, Leah put in my email address. And if everybody emails me at the same time, just be patient with me. I'm only human. I love y'all, but it may take me a minute to get back to you. So that is all that I have for now. If anybody wants to speak, all you got to do in a Zoom webinar is raise your hand. I'll see it and I can go over to the chat and let you speak. But Kelsey just asked a question. Can this go for one school or district only? Good question, Kelsey. This is for a district. Now, if your school is a district, and in some communities, that's how it is, then you're fine. If you're just a one school district, go ahead and apply. But if you're just one school within a larger school district, your whole school district needs to apply. Why do we do that? Well, first of all, a lot of times what's required in order to really manage indoor air quality, the authority and the contracting ability doesn't reside at the school site level. If you need equipment, that's a school district. If you need contracts, if you need vendors, if you need, even labor negotiations to ask, custodians or, unionized teachers to do different things, again, that all happens at the district level, not at the school site level. And so also, we don't want to create inequities within school districts. So everybody on this side of town has great indoor air quality, but everybody on this side of town is out to lunch. We don't want to create those inequities. So we really are looking for school districts to create holistic and systemic solutions for this. Brittany asks, we have a 4410 preschool, which has a significantly higher poverty rate than our other buildings, but we serve several counties through our school district. Can we include that poverty rate for determining eligibility? You know what, Brittany? Send me an email. Let's look into the specifics. It's possible, but let's make sure that I have the clear data and we'll let you know. Okay, so go ahead, send me an email and we'll figure it out together. Okay. These have been great questions, everybody, and I hope that you got your questions answered. This is going to be available later today on our YouTube channel. I'll send it out if you want to share it or review it. I also send the slides. But I want to thank you all for joining us today. There are going to be monthly webinars. The National School Boards Association and the Go Green Initiative are partnered to do monthly webinars. We're going to start doing free online on-demand training as well. So if you don't want to miss those opportunities, you know what? I'm going to put a slide back up on the screen real quick because I want to make sure you don't miss a thing. Let me get this up here. If you want to stay up to date, please sign up for our newsletter so that you get a chance to take advantage of all of the great programs we're going to be rolling out, all the great training and benefits. Also, I hope that you're going to the National School Boards Association annual conference. If you are, I'll see you there. I can't wait. If you're not, that's okay because I'll see you online next month. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and do something in your life to go green. All right? Take it easy.